The NFL regular season is more than halfway over, and that makes me want to vomit. So in an effort to stave off the existential dread that comes with the relentless passage of time, let's give out some awards. These are your official Benchwarmer brand Midseason Awards, starting things out hot with the MVP award. Where'd this jersey come from? Look, I am having an impeccable time this season. The New England Patriots and Drake May have blown every expectation I had for this season way out of the water. However, and this may come as a surprise to a lot of you, Drake May is actually not my midseason MVP. It's Jonathan Taylor. The statistical pace he's on right now is completely absurd. Now, I've seen plenty of naysayers out there saying, well, nay, obviously, but specifically that if Cooper Kupp didn't win MVP a couple years ago, no skill player is ever going to win it again. It's a QB award. And generally speaking, I agree. It is definitely an award heavily weighted toward the quarterbacks. The barrier to entry for these skill players is ridiculous. But here's the thing. As of right now, Jonathan Taylor is on the other side of that barrier. You see, there's one big difference between his season and Cooper Kupp's season. Cooper Kupp only had 16 touchdowns that season. Jonathan Taylor has 17 touchdowns already. He's on pace for 29 on the season, which would be second most in a season in NFL history. And both the guy ahead of and behind him won MVP. So that's why, as it stands right now, I think he absolutely has to be the midseason MVP. The only reason you're not seeing his name brought up more when it comes to the likelihood of winning the actual MVP at the end of the season is because there's an expectation that he's going to slow down a little bit, which is fair. I mean, if we're just talking general statistical regression, the odds he has another 4 games in the back half of the year with 3 rushing touchdowns each, pretty low. But if he does that, he'll win MVP. So that's why I gotta give this one to him. Obviously, don't get me wrong, Drake May is having an incredible season. He is my daddy. I love him. I would do anything for him, and I mean anything. And I think there's a pretty good chance that he actually walks away with the MVP when it's all said and done. And I also gotta give a shout out to Matthew Stafford, who's putting up just ridiculous numbers at his advanced age. Clearly, Young still got it, leading the Rams with just a diabolical 25-2 touchdown to interception ratio. Next, we've got the LVP, the least valuable player. You know, we're an equal opportunity channel. And this one goes to Geno Smith. My guy, what happened? When Geno came over to Vegas from Seattle, I had really high hopes for the Raiders offense. I thought with him, Genty, Bowers, Myers, that they were going to put together a pretty formidable group and maybe even fight for a wild card spot. Instead, Geno has devolved into arguably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. Second in the league in interceptions behind only Tua Tagovailoa, who's played one more game. And I want to get to the bottom of whatever black magic voodoo the Seahawks are using to know exactly when to move off a veteran quarterback before he falls apart, because it's getting suspicious. Other candidates for this award include the aforementioned Tua Tagovailoa, he sucks and I hate him, and Jake Browning. I probably would have given Jake Browning this award if he started a few more games, but he sucked so hard and so fast that his season was over before it really got started, whereas Geno's been hurting his team the whole season. Our offensive player of the year, yeah, this one's a real mystery. It's Jonathan Taylor. Look, normally this award just goes to the best offensive player who's not a quarterback, because usually a quarterback is an absolute lock for the MVP. But as I laid out earlier, that's not necessarily true if Taylor keeps up this pace, and it's definitely not true as far as midseason awards go. And I don't really have a justification to give the award to anyone other than Jonathan Taylor. Like, I guess I could just give it to a quarterback and kind of flip the script there, but no, I prefer that my awards actually make sense, unlike the NFL's. So we're giving the Offensive Player of the Year award to the best offensive player, and that's clearly JT. Other contenders include Jackson Smith and Jigba, leading the NFL in receiving at the time of this recording by over 200 yards and is on pace for just under 2,000. And then, of course, we have Christian McCaffrey in the mix as well, second in the league in scrimmage yards behind Jonathan Taylor. No matter how many injuries or German surgeries he may have, he simply refuses to die. Our Defensive Player of the Year has to go to Myles Garrett. Let's be honest, if the NFL awards were accurate, he would probably win Defensive Player of the Year literally every year. It's kind of like how Belichick only won Coach of the Year a handful of times, even though the Patriots were a dynasty for 2 decades. Good old voter fatigue. But Myles Garrett is leading the NFL in sacks. He's on pace to go over 20 sacks for the first time in his career, which shocked me. And he's just a one-man wrecking crew on that Browns defense. He gets chipped, doubled, or triple teamed at the highest rate of any edge defender in the NFL, and he simply does not care because he is a ballistic missile in a human's body. But to shout out some other contenders, we've got Micah Parsons of the Green Bay Packers, having a very nice first season in Green Bay. Sack numbers aren't exactly eye-popping, but obviously we know he is so much more to a defense than just the numbers. And I also wanted to shout out Brian Burns. I shouted him out in my preseason award predictions video, saying he could be a contender for this award. And while I don't know how likely he is to actually come away with it, he is tied for the league lead in sacks with Myles Garrett. Now, that's largely due to the fact that he is not double teamed nearly as much as Myles Garrett is because of the abundance of talent the Giants have on their D-line. But that's exactly what I mentioned before the season, that Burns would have plenty of opportunity to rack up some eye-popping sack numbers because of how loaded they are on that side of the ball. And he's doing that, so maybe he will find himself in the conversation. Either way, I know ball. And don't forget it. Our Offensive Rookie of the Year, and man, this one did not go the way I expected before the season. I'm going with Emeka Egbuka. To me, this is probably the tightest contested race right now. It's really Egbuka, Jackson Dart, Tyler Warren, even Quinshon Judkins on the outside looking in. And the fact that of those guys, Tyler Warren is really the only one I had on my radar to win it before the year is kind of wild. Ashton Genty just really hasn't done a whole lot, partially because of the aforementioned Geno Smith, but he's just been kind of okay. Tet McMillan also just been kind of okay because Bryce Young has been kind of not okay. So that leaves us with a crop of different rookies than we might have expected, starting with Emeka Egbuka, who is 9th in the NFL in receiving yards and is showing exactly why the Buccaneers drafted him, despite not seeming like it was a position of need at the time. Jackson Dart, if he can just stay on the field, will probably win this award by the end of the year. Again, quarterback bias, but also he's actually playing really well, which is even more impressive given the total dumpster fire around him. But again, this is midseason awards. Dart missed the first couple games. Ibuka's been really good. So for right now, we're going with Emeka. But Tyler Warren should be right in that mix as well. Hopefully he's the final nail in the coffin of the idea that rookie tight ends don't produce year one, because Laporta did it and people called it a fluke, and then Bowers did it and people said, okay, well, it happened again, but it's still kind of a fluke. And now Warren's doing it. Maybe rookie tight ends can just be good. Just a thought. Defensive rookie of the year, I'm going to give to Nick Eamon-Wari. Kind of an interesting year where none of the major candidates for defensive rookie of the year are really posting major numbers, but Nick Eamon-Wari has been rock solid for a terrifying Seattle Seahawks defense. Other contenders for this award are Carson Schlesinger of the Cleveland Browns. The Browns may not do a lot right, but they definitely got this draft class right. They ended up with a bunch of immediate contributors. Schlesinger, one of the best of the bunch. And then I'll throw Jahad Campbell in the mix as well, because NFL teams are apparently obsessed with letting the Eagles get great defensive players with their super late draft picks. Stop doing that. Coach of the year. Look, I'm done feeling like I need to apologize when I talk up the Patriots in my videos anymore, because anyone with eyes knows that this season is genuinely impressive at this point. It's Mike Vrabel, leading the Patriots to 8-2 in his first year as head coach, including a 1.5 game lead in the division, plus the tiebreaker over the Buffalo Bills because they went into Buffalo and beat them, is nothing short of incredible. The guy came in and immediately cleaned up the mess Gerard Mayo left behind, and like I said before, has just totally shattered any realistic expectations I had for this team this year. I was coming in saying I'd be happy with 10-7, and it looks like they're on track for a heck of a lot more than that. The man's a culture setter, he's my papa, and I would do absolutely anything he tells me to do. And I mean anything. Other contenders for this award include Shane Steichen, a guy who I thought was going to be firmly on the hot seat entering the year. Instead, he somehow turned the Colts into one of the best teams in football. After I'm done with my investigation of the Seahawks, moving on from veteran quarterbacks at the right time, I'm moving that investigation over to him. And then speaking of the Seahawks, Mike McDonald. He's got this team looking like arguably the best in the NFC. He's established a dominant defensive identity. He's getting a ton out of Sam Darnold. The vibes are high in Seattle. Now, again, when we acknowledge the good, we got to acknowledge the bad. Our worst coach of the year goes to Brian Callahan. This is a pretty easy award to give out at the midseason because you kind of just look at, who's been fired. We had two choices here, both named Brian, but I think Callahan did the worst job. I mean, the guy didn't even know the rules for what constitutes a catch in the NFL, so you probably shouldn't be entrusting your franchise to him. It's pretty detrimental for the Titans to have wasted Cam Ward's rookie year, because not only is he showing no signs of life, no improvement, but now he's going to have to deal with a new coach, a new offensive system. Daboll also hit the road, which is fair given what the Giants have done these last few years. I'm just a little confused why they decided to keep Joe Schoen, as if he's not equally, if not more, at fault for the Giants' struggles. But hey, bad teams stay bad, I guess. And then the last contender who hasn't been fired yet, which is a genuine shock in my opinion, Mike McDaniel. Now this looks a little more reasonable now because they just upset the Bills, but for the last 2 months up until that, it's been a genuine surprise that McDaniel has managed to stay employed. I thought this man was a lock to be a 49ers offensive assistant by December, which is still not impossible, but is looking slightly less likely. Comeback player of the year has to go to Christian McCaffrey. Again, Achilles injuries, German surgeries, and somehow this man is back looking like one of the best running backs in the NFL again. I don't know what kind of magic medicine they were feeding this dude, but can I get some for my hairline? Also in contention for this award, Dak Prescott, having a very productive year after last season was lost to injury, and is one of the only reasons the Dallas Cowboys are semi-watchable, because God knows their defense isn't. And then Aiden Hutchinson. Gruesome injury last year. Absolutely heartbreaking because I think the entire world was behind the Lions and rooting for them to make a Super Bowl run. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to overcome his injury, but he's back, he looks better than ever, and he's going to be motivated to get the Lions over that hump. Now, I gave out this award last year. I just called it Big Boy of the Year, but I said that offensive linemen deserve their own award to acknowledge them. Well, NFL, you're welcome for the idea. I'm sure I'm the only one who's ever thought of it. Anyway, my protector of the year is Trent Williams. Now, he's not necessarily the best offensive lineman in the league this year, but I said this when the award got announced. I think the NFL should give it to an older guy who's still performing at an elite level. Don't give it to just some scrub just because he's old. But if you have an older lineman who hasn't had the opportunity, obviously, to win this award and may not have any going forward, let's give it to him. Yeah, Penei Sewell's probably the actual best lineman in the league, but he's going to be around forever. Let's give it to Trent Williams while we still can. He's still having a very good year and is somehow one of the only 49ers who hasn't really been hurt this season. I just want our large unk to get some recognition before he goes out. Other contenders though, again, Penei Sewell, if you want to just give it to the actual best lineman in the NFL, I wouldn't be surprised. And then Quentin Nelson, one of the engines behind Jonathan Taylor's ridiculous rushing season. But again, we got to go to the opposite end of the spectrum now. Our Right This Way, Sir award for worst offensive lineman goes to Jonah Savaiinaya. I'm not even going to give other contenders for this award because he has just been by far the worst lineman in the league. I mean, you want to talk about a complete turnstile of a lineman. Search this guy's name on Twitter. I know it might take you a couple tries to spell it, and you will see just a comedy of errors throughout the season. Brutal draft pick for the Dolphins. Before we go, I'm going to throw in a couple more awards of my own. First off, Most Improved. I still don't know why the NFL hasn't made this a real award either. And while I didn't give him the MVP, I am going to give this award to Drake May. The improvement from year 1 to year 2 is almost superhuman. And don't get me wrong, we saw flashes of his potential last year, but nobody thought he would be this good this fast. Other contenders, of course, Daniel Jones, going from a total egg with the Giants to at least a solid conductor of the offense in Indianapolis. And I'm probably underselling him a little bit because he's leading the league in passing yards, which doesn't feel right. And Rico Dowdle. Guy had 1,000 yards for Dallas last year and has only improved upon that in Carolina. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry on top of winning multiple games essentially by himself for the Panthers. Dowdle's been a revelation. Our Ain't Right Back Award in honor of Geno Smith, back when he was good, goes to Daniel Jones. I mean, I probably wrote this man off harder than I've written off anyone in my entire life, other than maybe Sam Darnold last year. But man, is he proving me and the rest of the world wrong. Outside of some of those turnover issues starting to bite him a little bit, he has played fantastic football for the Colts this year. Honestly, just playing at a level I did not think he was capable of. Some other contenders for this award include Sam Darnold. Again, yes, he had a great season for the Vikings last year, but with the way it ended, it did make you wonder if he'd be able to bounce back and if he'd be able to succeed outside of Kevin O'Connell's system. And he's showing us that he's just fine. Now, I think Clint Kubiak's a great offensive mind in his own right, but I can't discredit what Darnold's done. He's now gone to multiple environments, multiple teams, and put up some great performances, proving that the only places where he couldn't perform were the Jets and Panthers. And it's hard to blame him for that. And we've also got Javonte Williams, a guy who we kind of thought was dust, who was on the same tier as Miles Sanders entering the year, a guy whose name I floated all offseason long to describe how bad the Cowboys running back room was. Well, it turns out we've got the old Javonte Williams back. The one I liked coming out of North Carolina, the one I really liked with the Denver Broncos in his early years. Yeah, that guy's back. Our Bugatti in the Trailer Park Award for best player in a terrible situation goes to Myles Garrett. He's kind of just the eternal Bugatti in the Trailer Park winner. NFL sack leader, one of the best defensive players of literal all time on the perennially booty Cleveland Browns. Can't feel too bad for him. He opted into this after a trade request that he stood by for about 10 minutes, but it still sucks. Other contenders for this award include Devon Achane, one of the most exciting running backs in the league, but he's stuck on the also incredibly depressing Miami Dolphins. And this one's not quite as bleak, but I'm going with Justin Jefferson. The Vikings are 4-5. We're not seeing typical Justin Jefferson numbers because of the subpar quarterback play. Maybe he's not necessarily a Bugatti in a trailer park, but he's definitely stuck in neutral. And finally, the Kyle Pitts Award for extreme hype coming into the season and an extreme lack of following up on it. It goes to Brian Thomas Jr. I selected Brian Thomas Jr. in the second round of my fantasy draft this year, much like I selected Kyle Pitts in the third round a couple years ago, and I am just as, if not more, annoyed about this one. Last year, he looked like an emerging superstar wide receiver, putting up absurd numbers with Mac Jones at the helm, and this year it was supposed to be all good things, a total improvement. Trevor Lawrence coming back, Liam Cohen running the offense, and instead Brian Thomas Jr. got hit over the middle one time in a preseason game, got the yips, can't catch over the middle anymore, and can't really catch anything at all. Yeah, this guy stinks. Other contenders include Travion Henderson, although he's starting to break out a little bit, so hopefully he won't be here for the year-end version of these awards, and Ashton Genty. Again, not totally disappointing, but definitely not the level of production we were hoping for when he got drafted. But that'll do it for the midseason awards. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, and let me know who you think are going to win these awards by the end of the season. But for now, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.